we had such fierce competition among the stories submitted. I didn't say last night, we had about 70 stories from, Gabby, how many countries? We're checking, from a lot of countries. And so the judges actually broke out 2 first place winners, and they wanted to give a certificate of excellence to show the great team spirit and the extraordinary work done by Yanukovych leaks. Finally, we had this blockbuster story from South America done by a previous award winner, Gazeta de Povo, and you, Maury Koenig, one of Latin America's leading investigative journalists. And I think you've proved that again, Maury, in doing Empire of Ashes, which again linked a top official, in this case the president of Paraguay, to international organized crime, in this case tobacco smuggling. Gabriela says 34 countries were involved. So these 3 countries, Ukraine, Montenegro, and Brazil, though Maury, you're stretched into multiple countries, as did really all of your investigations. All right, I will stop talking now and let me hand it over to my esteemed colleagues. So listen, we want to leave plenty of time for question and answer. Sorry we're up here, it's because we're streaming video. Otherwise, I think we'd be right next to you with such a small audience. And again, I want to stress that we're streaming this session, so if, you know, don't bear confidential sources or do anything you don't want to be on video online, okay? So with that, let me hand it over to Miranda first. And Miranda, you got 10 minutes, okay?
I have 10 minutes. So Unholy Alliance is really a culmination of 5 years of work. The project started back in 2009 when OCCRP, together with International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, was looking into tobacco smuggling. And one of the questions was about who Milo Djukanovic is. He was the prime minister / president of Montenegro for more than 20 years. He's been the only president who was actually indicted for cigarette smuggling. And they wanted to know more. So at the time, I was looking into him and his assets because everybody was saying that they have accumulated significant wealth. But the question was where it was. And I was profiling his family, his brothers and sister, and among the findings was that they own a bank. The story was published then because we didn't have more time to investigate the bank. But for me, the question remained, what are they doing with the bank, especially because at the time, the bank had to be bailed out. Because a large amounts of money went missing. So for the next 3 years, I actually kept asking questions about this bank and what was happening with the bank. And whoever I would ask, even reporters who I would ask, they said, you will never find out anything. You'll never get a single inside document on the bank. Just, you know, stop trying. And one day, as I was doing a training in one of the countries, I came across a person and asked, I was looking for a particular document. It was a special audit that was done of the bank. And the person said, yeah, I have that, and I have a lot more. And I was actually doing a training during the day, and during the night, I was scanning page by page of the documents because I couldn't take them out of country. So I had to upload them and not have a trace of them anywhere. And what it was 1,000 pages of internal reports by the country regulator detailing all the illegalities and corruption in the bank. It was literally every page had broke the law, committed crime, illegal on it, every single one. So after we got those documents, we published a series of stories, but I left some of the ties of the bank with the organized crime for the very end. I wanted to publish a separate series and do more in-depth reporting on this. And that's when the Unholy Alliances was born. And part of it was really about the loans and transactions and how this bank owned by the first family of Montenegro was laundering money for the organized crime figures, including a man who was a leader of international drug cartel and has been wanted by several, and investigated by a number of countries. He's a local person. What was interesting about this project, it wasn't just based on the bank records. We were trying to get some of the records that you would really consider public records, like a land records. But in this case, government authorities actually wouldn't release the record for us. We even took them to court. And what it took is a really clever situation. On one occasion, I actually sent a researcher because I couldn't go into the country to ask the records and my name was too familiar. So we hired the FedEx to file a request, and the request was approved, but the documents were not coming. And I sent a researcher in the country and told her not to come back until she gets the records. And she went to the registry office, and they told her, yeah, records have been sent, just go away, you'll get them. And she was like, no, 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 I'm staying till you get me the records. And 1 hour later, the guy said, okay, I'll give you the records. And she called me when she got the records, and she was leading a list. I was saying, no, the key documents are not there. And I was like, you have to go back. And in this like really extraordinary culmination of event, there was a heavy rain. It was pouring like hell. She was in the middle of the street. Her makeup got all messed up, and she was like, she had like a black spot on her eyes, and she went screaming to the office like a woman from hell, telling, you better give me all the records because I'm not leaving this place. And the guy was so scared of her because she, yeah. And we finally got the records. And those were one of the key documents that we needed. And this wasn't the only thing. I mean, I was traveling to Montenegro very often, and one of the places we were visiting that was owned by the crime figures was an island. And during my visit to the island, I noticed that there was an area which was fenced. So I went on, there was a small, like a hill on the island, so I went on top of that hill and was taking some photos of what was going on, and I just saw a number of yachts and so on. And a couple of months later, suddenly there was an investigation in Italy where they were saying that from Montenegro they were smuggling cigarettes. And we were met again after the country has been saying, we are done with that business, we are not smuggling anymore. When I saw that they were smuggling, I was trying to figure out what was the location, and incredibly, actually the same location that I was taking photos of the vessels was location where they were loading all the cigarettes, and actually the pictures that I took when I went there were actually the vessels which were smuggling. So it was really, really amazing project with kind of lots of different situations, but it was also a very difficult project because I received the death threats and was told I would be killed. After the stories have been published, there was a big smear campaign against the people, our partner organization in Montenegro. The woman who ran it was for weeks on the front page with a newspaper saying, is she involved with the sex with dogs? They were posting a photo of a dog and a naked woman and saying, is this her? They called me a starlet of investigative reporting, and they were publishing articles basically saying, why do you say Miranda, but you really mean sex? And it was like a lot of sex. So it was extraordinary to do this kind of story, and also the way that we faced, so to say, consequences.
You're early.
I'm early. Oh.
You got a couple more minutes.
I have a couple of more minutes.
We can keep going. Save it for the questions. I'm sure people will have questions for you. Okay. Well, let's go to Mari. Okay.
Okay.
Take it away. Gabriella's going to help. Why don't we, since everyone is almost on the left side, can we arrange the seats just a little bit so they're facing the audience? I just noticed how strange we're all facing over here.
Of course.
Well, this doesn't cause trouble for the cameraman. Thank you for bearing with us. Okay.
So Mauri will speak in Spanish instead of Portuguese, so I can help. I can help with the, sorry. Mauri will speak in Spanish instead of Portuguese, so I can help translating. I'm not a professional translator, so I hope everything will be okay.
Okay. Para contar un poco de la producción. Buenos días a todos. Este reportaje fue una propuesta del IPIS, el Instituto Prensa y Sociedad de Perú, una organización de periodismo.
This project that Mauri, does it work? That Mauri works was proposed by IPIS. It's an organization of journalists in Peru.
Fueron invitados periodistas de algunos países y al fin quedamos yo en Brasil, Marta Soto en Colombia y Ronnie Rojas en Costa Rica para hacer este trabajo que quedamos 5 meses investigando.
So in the end for this work, it was Marta Soto in Colombia, Ronnie Rojas in Costa Rica, and Mauri himself in Brazil, and they worked for this project for 5 months.
Hace muchos años que había una sospecha de que el presidente de Paraguay, Horacio Cartes, estaba involucrado en el contrabando de cigarrillo, pero nadie lo había comprobado hasta entonces.
So for a lot of years, there was a suspicion that the Paraguay president was involved in cigarette smuggling, but nobody could prove that.
Entonces nosotros empezamos creamos un planeamiento de cómo vamos era una hipótesis que íbamos a comprobar o no. Entonces salimos a campos y fue a buscar los datos de los decomisos de cigarrillos en Brasil, porque hay un gran volumen de contrabando de cigarrillos de Paraguay para Brasil.
Okay, so what they did is they started a methodology. They had a hypothesis that they wanted to go to the field and see if it was going to be valid or not. And the first thing they needed was to try to gather the data of cigarettes, how many cigarettes were held in customs, right? Okay.
Bueno, y entonces busqué en todos los órganos federales de Brasil donde hay decomiso de cigarrillo. Encontré 70 marcas de cigarrillos producidas en Paraguay y que entran de contrabando en Brasil.
So when he went to try to get the data of how many cigarettes are stopped in customs, like cigarette smuggling, he found that there were 70 brands of cigarettes that came from Paraguay to Brazil.
Entonces me fui atrás del nombre de cada empresa que producía cada una de estas marcas de cigarrillo. Y encontré la tabacalera de Ciudad del Este, la tabacalera del presidente de Paraguay produce 5 de estas 70 marcas de cigarrillo.
So what he did is he went and he researched every one of these 70 brands, and he found that Ciudad del Este, a company owned by, a tobacco company owned by the president from Paraguay, he owned 5 out of 70 of these brands of cigarettes.
Y yo hice un levantamiento de 4 años, de 2010, 11, 12 y 13, de todo el cigarrillo que fue decomisado en Brasil. Y de todo esto, estas 5 marcas del presidente de Paraguay corresponden a la mitad de todo lo que fue decomisado en Brasil.
Someone can help me with the word. I'm having trouble with translating decomisar. Anybody can help me, in English?
Confiscado.
Confiscar when the cigarettes
Aprendido.
are held by the confiscate.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Bear with me. I'm sleep deprived. So, for 4 years, he analyzed how all these confiscated brands. He analyzed 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, and he found that these 5 brands owned by the president are half of the cigarettes that were confiscated. So these 5 brands were half of that.
Y antes, por supuesto, que buscamos los documentos que comprueban que el presidente era el dueño de esta tabacalera.
And of course, they needed to search the documents that prove that the president was the owner of this tobacco company.
Y el presidente de Paraguay dice a nosotros, como decía a todos los periodistas, que él solo produce el cigarrillo y a él no corresponde, no es responsable por cómo llega a otros países, y comprobamos por intermedio de un mapa que el cigarrillo del presidente de Paraguay llega a toda Latinoamérica.
Okay, so the president of Paraguay, he told them, the same as he's been telling journalists, that he just produces cigarettes. He's not responsible for how these cigarettes go in different countries.
Entonces, yo busqué una ley federal de Paraguay, el Código Aduanero, que comprueba que es contrabando no solo lo que entra en Paraguay sin el pago de los impuestos, pero lo que sale también es contrabando. Y que entonces el presidente está violando una ley federal del país que él propio preside, que es el líder.
Okay, so he was checking the law, and he found a federal custom law that's in Paraguay that says that smuggling, when you smuggle, it's not just what enters Paraguay, but smuggling is also what goes out of Paraguay. So what this means is that the president was violating one of his own laws.
Y esta ley federal tiene un artículo que dice que quien gana con el contrabando tiene que ser responsabilizado. Entonces el presidente de Paraguay tendría que ser responsabilizado por el contrabando. Y nosotros estamos hablando de una cifra de $2.000 millones al año de contrabando de cigarrillo que ingresa solo en Brasil. Pero el cigarrillo del presidente de Paraguay llega a toda Latinoamérica.
And in this law, there was an article that says that whoever wins with smuggling, it should be held responsible. So it means that the president should be held responsible. And there is an amount of $2,000 million of the revenue from smuggling, right, in Brazil. And this is just in Brazil. Imagine like all the other countries that these cigarettes go.
Y entonces cuando llegamos a estas cifras billonarias, me suscitó, me provocó un otro cuestionamiento. ¿Por qué el contrabando de cigarrillo es así tan intenso en la frontera de Brasil con Paraguay? Entonces descubrí, cruzando datos, haciendo un par de comparaciones, que el contrabando de cigarrillo está superando el narcotráfico en la frontera de Brasil con Paraguay.
So he had these billionaire numbers, and he started asking himself, what about this cigarette smuggling in the border between Brazil and Paraguay? Why is it so profitable? And he discovered that now cigarette smuggling, tobacco smuggling, it's more profitable in the border than cocaine and marijuana.
Então, como eu já tinha os dados... perdão. Como eu já tendría os dados del cigarrillo, yo busqué el decomiso de cocaína y de marihuana en este mismo periodo de 2010 hasta el 2013 e hizo una comparación.
So he already had the data of tobacco smuggling in these 4 years that we talked about before. So he tried to find the same data of confiscation, but in this case from cocaine and marijuana, so to be able to cross and compare these two data.
Entonces yo pegué todo el volumen de cocaína, de marihuana y de cigarrillo decomisado en este periodo e hizo una conversión de cuánto se paga por este producto por el consumidor final, cuando ya tiene todos los costos de producción y de transporte. Y convertí todo este producto en dólar y hizo una planilla para comparar, y entonces descubrimos que el contrabando de cigarrillo ya es más rentable para las pandillas de la frontera, es más rentable que la cocaína y que la marihuana.
Okay, so they have all this data, and they try to find the final cost of this, like the retailer, like how much the actual individual pays for this tobacco on one hand and cocaine and marijuana on the other hand, all costs included, transportation, etc. He made a spreadsheet. This money was converted into dollars, and they found that tobacco was more profitable now for the gangs in the border than cocaine and marihuana.
Mauri, 2 minutos, por favor.
Siempre recordando que el presidente de Paraguay es lo que tiene más importancia dentro de este contrabando. El año 1993, cuando se encerró el régimen militar en Paraguay, se cerró también el negocio del narcotráfico en el estado de Paraguay. Cuando Stroessner fue depuesto y su yerno, Andrés Rodríguez, asumió el gobierno, y cuando salió en 93, cerró este negocio del narco con el Estado, y empezó el negocio del cigarrillo.
Okay, so when in 1993, when the military regime was stopped in Paraguay, that's when the business of narco traffic with the state was closing, and then is when the business of tobacco started.
Porque en este mismo año, 1993, Horacio Cartes, hoy presidente de Paraguay, abrió su primera empresa tabacalera. Entonces en Paraguay había solamente 2 tabacaleras. Hoy existe 36 tabacaleras en Paraguay. Entonces la tabacalera fue el negocio más rentable para el presidente de Paraguay.
So this 93 is the same year that Horacio Cartes, the president of Paraguay now, opened his first tobacco company. It was one out of two tobacco companies, and now there are 36 tobacco companies in Paraguay.
Entonces quedó muy claro que hubo un cambio en los negocios del Estado, de los narcos hasta los años 90. Comenzó entonces los negocios del tabaco. Por esto que se hizo este cambio del crimen organizado en la frontera de Brasil con Paraguay. Porque el contrabando de tabaco está tomando al frente y ganando espacio que antes era de marihuana y de cocaína.
So it's clear that there has been a change in the state business, let's say, from the narco traffic in the 90s to tobacco now, and this is taking place in the border between Brazil and Paraguay, and tobacco is gaining territory among narco traffic and drugs.
Okay, let's get our third panelist in, and then we'll open it up for questions. We're gonna, Dmitry, do you want to start with the clip, with the video?
I'll say some words
Please.
for this clip. So, yeah, hi colleagues. Yanukovych Leaks, this is a web platform where scraped 25,000 documents from the residence of ex-president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, who fled from Ukraine after huge civic protests 1.5 years ago. And we as reporters came to his residence and finally found absolutely huge amount of proofs of large-scale corruption of Yanukovych family that year by year during Yanukovych presidency stolen billions of money from Ukrainian people. So let's see a short video how we did this project, and then I'll go on. Yes, I'll continue.
Прежде всего я хочу сказать, что я никуда не бежал. Во время моего переезда меня обстреляли из автоматического оружия. И я уезжал не один. И никуда не бежал.
Все почалося зранку 22 лютого. Тодішній президент України Віктор Янукович втік з країни через протести, а його шикарна резиденція Межигір'я залишилася без охорони. Українські журналісти одразу поїхали туди.
Ми добилися того, щоб можна було спуститись вниз, туди до Київського моря і подивитися, що там. І ми побачили, що ці документи плавають у воді. Звичайно, одразу перша емоція, що треба їх якось дістати. Там були спритні хлопці, які знайшли якісь такі, там, я не знаю, плот, на якому вони добралися до документів, які плавали у воді, їх забрали, підняли нагору. Я почала розглядати, вивчати ці документи і розуміла, що моя задача зараз охороняти їх, допоки інші журналісти не приїдуть.
Ні, ну може тут поклади, щоб далеко не нести.
Треба, бо дощ падає, треба, щоб воно висихало.
Еще там есть сейчас папки, пару папок несут.
Там сейчас будет цинк с патронами для пулемета.
Патрон сюда, ребят, патрон сюда.
Патрон! Слава Украине!
Водолази пірнають у крижану воду, витягають звідти документи і одразу передають їх журналістам. Часу в усіх обмаль.
Так, ну это мы сделаем.
Отже, ми зараз знаходимося на набережній у Межигір'ї. Тут от сьогодні протягом дня і от саме в ці моменти виловлюють документи, цілу купу документів, які хтось намагався знищити.
Документов очень много.
Суми різні, дивіться, давайте подивимося.
Отут, наприклад, 10 мільйонів.
10 мільйонів доларів США.
Наприклад, є документи, в яких чорним по білому написано, що передаються хабарі. От, наприклад, дивіться, в цьому документі, який називається «Об'єкти Києва і прочі затрати», тут написано, от в пункті 47, зараз ви можете подивитись, це взятка тендер Пуща 20А 204 489 тисяч гривень.
Робота триває до самої ночі. Журналісти і волонтери...
stop this video, but in YouTube you can see the full version. Newsroom Межигір'я. This video has the name. So me and my colleagues, 12 Ukrainian journalist investigators, we finally, as we found out, we finally get the black accountancy of Yanukovych family, of ex-president Yanukovych family, and a lot of evidences of bribes, dirty corruptional deals, of getting control of state enterprises in corruptional way, of chasing of civic activists and journalists, and so on. 100 of volunteers came to Medjugorje, to this residence, to help for us for sort, dry, and scan of these documents. Finally, thanking our colleagues from OCCRP, they supported for us creating a web platform for uploading, for recognizing all these documents, because a lot of documents was in handwritten. And after this, we scanned these documents, and originals allocated to General Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine, and we started our investigations. You know, during the years of Yanukovych presidency, we pray God for giving even one little document of part of one document for giving evidence of corruption of one or several companies controlled by Yanukovych family. And in one day, we get the huge bunch of these documents, and after 7 days of absolutely without sleeping and breaks for food, working of drying, saving these documents. So I said, thanks God, you heard me. Yeah, finally, what's the result? For today, Ukrainian General Prosecutor's Office started 93 criminal prosecutions against Yanukovych personnel, his elder son, and his closest allies. His satellites, his friends, and top Ukrainian ex-ministers. These guys escaped to Russia, and now Mr. Putin protect them, and Ukrainian law enforcement structures cannot, they put in jail. Most part of them now in Interpol search. For example, last fall, as you know, was arrested Kolobov, Mr. Kolobov, Yuri Kolobov. This is an ex-minister of finance during Yanukovych presidency. So now we provide near 20, to be correct, 19 journalist investigations based on these documents that we found out in residence. We provided investigations and show up for Ukrainian society and globally about exposed information about 12 banks that controlled by Yanukovych family, about 35 state enterprises, big enterprises, railways, plants, and so on that Yanukovych family got control on, about charity foundation that get the bribes from different big companies, also companies from Russia, and this charity foundation was controlled by Yanukovych new wife, Lyubov Polizhai. So this is it, and our audience and our colleagues said for us in comments after yesterday's ceremony, come on guys, we believe in you, and we believe that you won main prize after you will provide new project, Poroshenko Leaks. Poroshenko, this is today's Ukraine president. So, thank you for your attention. This is it.
All right, thanks, Dmytro. What a range of topics and of talent here. and all in very different environments. Tobacco smuggling in South America, the fleeing corrupt ex-president in Ukraine, and a mafia state in Eastern Europe. Well, Ukraine may have 2 mafia states in Eastern Europe. Let me start with my own question. We try and focus in our panels very much on the methodology of investigative journalism. How do you do these things? And as you're talking, I'm thinking, what is the biggest single piece of advice you can offer to journalists in the audience and who are watching the video if they face a similar situation? Was it the paper trail? I mean, that's something that all 3 of your investigations follow. Is it following the money? What was the single most important method you used to tell your story? Miranda, you want to start?
I think the most important thing is not to give up, no matter what people tell you. We often see people who say, you'll never get a document, the government, it's not public, government will not release it. And for me, it really is that if you go and you turn enough stones, you'll find the information you're looking for. And we had several miracles happen in this project where there was no way that we would get the information, and we still got them through going through this extraordinary ways and thinking outside the box and just trying many, many times and not giving up. That's the single one.
Dimitro?
Yes, I want to add to my colleague Miranda that you must not forget, you must remember that your work makes sense. And, during Yanukovych years of presidency, we and our colleagues from big media said, come on, you are doing these investigations, and what's the result? Who cares? Not many people interested in it, but most part of society doesn't care about it. And government and the Yanukovych family doesn't care about your investigation, so what's the result? But this is like a drop of water that fall down on the stone, drop by drop, and finally, during these civic protests in Ukraine 2 years ago, we heard on the streets in Kiev that a lot of people told one to another different things, different exposed facts that we found out in our investigations. So finally, this is a not stupid and no sense work. No, this work has sense, and this is like a big bottle where you drop by drop your investigation. This is attention of society, attention of people for who you work.
Bueno, yo creo que se puede dar un consejo, sería una persistencia, que el periodista tiene que tener persistencia para en el tema que está trabajando, porque seguro que no es fácil encontrar los documentos que necesita para comprobar lo que está diciendo, lo que va a publicar. Y es importante que se compruebe todo lo que se va a publicar, para que no deje una margen de duda y para que la gente que está siendo denunciada en un reportaje le va a poner abajo todo lo que usted hizo porque no pudo probar.
So if he needs to give one single piece of advice, it's again to be persistent as a journalist, to be persistent with the topic of your investigation. Of course, it's not easy to find all the documents to prove, but you need to find all the documents. You need to fact-check everything so there is no doubt. And then the people you are investigating, they cannot come after you.
Yo creo también que usted tiene que de poner en este tema que está tratando, decirle muy claro a la gente que la importancia que tiene esta nota, que tiene este informe, la importancia pública. Porque muchas veces, en este caso que publicamos del contrabando de cigarrillo, mucha gente decía, esto no es mi problema, no impacta a mi país. Y cuando fuimos a buscar los documentos y los datos y probamos por un levantamiento de años tras años que el volumen de dinero que movimenta este negocio oscuro y cuánto el país le pierde. Es una manera de poner la gente junto con usted en este trabajo, mostrar cómo su país está perdiendo algo y por consecuencia esta persona también.
Okay, so you have to be able to tell people how important your story is for society, for the public good. For example, in their case, a lot of people came to then approach the journalists and tell, but this is not my problem. This is not in my country, for example. But then gathering data year by year, and they could prove the volume of money that this smuggling it's affecting and how much money Brazil is losing, for example. Then people start caring about it.
Okay, why don't we take some questions from the audience? Since we're streaming, I'm going to ask you to come up so we can give you a microphone and come on up. You're going to have to grab the mic because we want to get you on the tape. So I'll come down here. And please say who you are and where you're from.
My name is Wei Zhou. I'm from China. I'm the producer for BBC. So I have a very simple question for the Ukraine journalists. So if your former president is still in power, can you still investigate him? And what's more important is that, do you have self-censorship? Can you still publish the story?
Do you mean?
Oh, you got a mic, sorry. Okay.
Could you repeat? Do you mean
yeah, if
censorship?
Yeah, if the former president is still in power, can you still investigate him? And what's more important, do you have self-censorship? That is to say, if your editor or your boss will curb your story, or do you still have the possibility to publish your investigation?
Yes, thank you. Good question. Sure, yes, Yanukovych was a classical type of dictator, and he not only steal a lot of money, but he tried to, first of all, to build a system of family government controlling by his closest friends and relatives all directions of Ukrainian economy. And for improving of his power, sure, he personally and his allies, he provided the censorship in Ukraine. First of all, you know, the most popular Ukrainian TV channels controlled by Ukrainian oligarchs, and those oligarchs linked with Yanukovych, and they provide the censorship on the most popular Ukrainian TV channels, and journalists who want to talk truth ought to be fired from these channels. And me personally, we are with my colleagues, 12 Ukrainian journalists, we were be fired because we provided investigations. We were be fired from Ukrainian popular televisions. And at the last months of Yanukovych presidency, we started absolutely independent TV online broadcasting project, Hromadske TV. And finally, we started to broadcast truth about Yanukovych corruptional family in the internet through YouTube, and now we have 2 silver points from YouTube for the quantity of followers and views in YouTube for broadcasting. So censorship was a absolutely ordinary thing during Yanukovych presidency.
Thanks, Dimitro. Mari has to catch a plane, so I'm going to ask if there are any questions for our Brazilian colleague right now, and we'll get that out of the way. Anybody got a question for Mauri and Empire of Ashes? Going once, going twice. Okay, who's next? Mari, you can go if you need to. Is he going? How about a hand for Mari Koenig, Empire of Ashes? Okay, who's next? Yes, come to the mic, please. And please say who you are and where you're from.
Felicidades, Mari, antes de que te vayas. I'm Minna Knusgalan from the Finnish Broadcasting Company, and I have a question about the Yanukovych leaks. And before that, congratulations to you all, because you've done marvelous work. Really incredible, all of you. You were working with several Ukrainian journalists, and with competing journalists. Was that a problem in some stage, working with your competitors? And how did you decide where and when and how to publish?
Well, you know, we are not the competitors in common sense, because we are investigators. We are not news reporters from top Ukrainian TV channels. Yes, we are investigators, and the investigators, this is a very close and friendly group. Sure, but we have some, now, after Yanukovych escaping from the country, we created own investigative independent project, and we have some kind of competition. But maybe do you heard this proverb that Democrats unite before the 5 minutes till the shooting, yeah? So in that situation, we have no choice. In situation of Yanukovych presidency, we have no choice just to unite with each other for creating the last things of our profession, yeah, or of our specialty, journalism investigation. So we supported each other. And we organized a civic movement, Stop Censorship. This is a civic movement of journalists against censorship in Yanukovych, during Yanukovych presidency years. So this is not competition in common sense, like Oprah Winfrey is a competitor of Larry King, yes? This is absolutely another type of relations between investigators. I mean, not between huge TV stars, but investigators. Investigators, this is a close, friendly group who has a common interest, not to get the highest rating, yeah, or not to get on the first place in morning paper, yes? Our interest, not the getting a bunch of money. Our interest to share the truth for people. And this first interest for us, this is a main goal for us. And this unites us in Ukraine and globally with our colleagues, Miranda and you.
Another question? Yeah. Again. Say who you are, please.
Yes, thank you for your work. My name is Ayo Johnson. I live in Bermuda and work in Bermuda. And I wanted to ask you about the funding of your work. How does that work out? Well, for both of you, really. How does the actual... How do you fund it?
Funding?
Yeah.
OCCRP has funding from international donors, so it's a USAID, it's Open Society, it's Swiss government grants, private donors, and that's how we find money for our investigations. But investigations are not connected with the donor money in a way that we tell donors what we're going to investigate. We just get the money to investigate corruption and organized crime, and then we choose what kind of stories we are going to do and what we are going to report.
Well, yes, I'm agreeing with my colleague Miranda. So, as one source of funding, surely we're working with international donors and getting some funding for providing investigations and so on. But this is, for us in Ukraine, this is just one way of funding. We have second way of funding, and Ukrainian society surprised a lot of us when demonstrated such a high level of social responsibility. We have a lot of private donations from Ukrainian people inside Ukraine and abroad, from Ukrainian diaspora. This is just a private donations. But this is a huge of money. Our independent TV online broadcaster got 4 million hryvnias. This is near. This is a $400,000 by the private donations from Ukrainian people. And third way, if you are honest and if you are believe in your work, people usually will help you. And we attracted the big volunteer support. For example, if you will see this video of creating Yanukovych Leaks project, you will see how many volunteers came to this Yanukovych residency and helped us to sort this bunch of documents, to dry it. They collected, they came with their own scans, with their own fans and so on. A lot of people just pro bono as a volunteers helped us. So private donations, volunteers, and working with donors, and you will be very sustainable, very happy, and getting results.
Okay, thanks, Dmytro. Is that a good place to end it? We have time for one more question if someone's dying to ask, or why don't we go on to the final ceremony? Give them a big hand. Thank you, Dmytro, Miranda. Incredible work. Thank you, everybody.